What is that file that holds all the entities called? Is it
Where am
called
I? What file?
the one that's that you're pointing to right now? What is that file called?
This guy?
Yeah,
The core data model.
the core data model.
Yep.
Okay.
Because if you want to create it, like yesterday I showed us we could create it from scratch by saying new file, and we could go down to core data and create this data model here.
Okay.
Cool?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Everybody's back. How many participants do we have? 27. I think that's what we were. All right. So let's keep going. We'll create a new file. I'm sorry?
We had 30 people in the class.
What's that?
I thought we had 30-something people in the class.
Some people took vacation early.
I'm jealous.
The what?
Nothing. I said I'm so glad to be
here. Okay, where we headed? Okay, so we're back. Where we headed? For the next hour, we'll be creating some more files. We'll be creating a file. We'll call the file Core Data Manager. Basically, that'll be the brain of our core data manipulation of data, right? So anytime we want to do anything with our core data objects, we'll access it via this singleton, via this core data manager singleton, right? So we want to add to core data. I want to add a new user. I want to add a new post. I want to fetch all posts. I want to fetch all users. We'll have one singleton class for that. We'll call it core data manager. And this is going to be a singleton that we can access anywhere in our application. At the end of the day, this will be very similar to what we've done for persistence back in Unit 4 when we did persistence there. We had like our persistence class. It's going to be very similar. So I could add, delete, update, and all that stuff there. Everybody with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for the most part, we are done with the visual part of setting up our core data. We went through regenerating the properties class manually a few times. So by now we should get a bit better there and more comfortable. So we'll do more again in our lab. But for now, let's create a new class.
Alex?
Yes?
If we didn't change it to being manually generated, what would happen? It would, like, what would be the alternative to that?
It would generate for you automatically.
And then you would not be able to make edits to like the attributes, or
you could edit at any time.
So what is the usefulness of doing it manually?
We have, it's like anything else. Like we have, we're the ones to say if we want to delete one or we want to delete all, as opposed to just like regenerating all of them.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so create a new file here. What's we gonna call it? We're gonna call it client. We'll call it manager. It's a manager. Create a Swift file. No. Do you guys see the tab above my? Do you see this? No.
We creating a Swift file in the models?
Yeah, in the model. We'll keep it in the model. Okay, core data manager. It's in the models, yes. And then create. Cool. We have a class, it's called core data manager. We said we're gonna make it a singleton, so singleton.
It's static, right?
Yeah, who wants to walk me through the singleton syntax here?
Static let.
Static let.
Shared, or what you want to
Static
call it?
let, yeah, we can call it shared. Manager that shared, that's fine. And then call manager here, call foundation, call data manager. What else we need to make this a singleton?
An init.
And init, so what does the init have to do?
It's a, what is it, a private init and
private init, right? The whole point of this is to make the init private. So nobody can create one outside of our class, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. You're a bit low your volume, or is it me?
No, I think maybe I'm low.
Okay.
No,
All
my
right.
volume's all the way up.
Okay. It's probably me. So implement singleton, that we're good with. Perfect. Next thing we need some arrays of stuff. We need data. So we need a private, we'll manage a private array of users. And our core data manage object, we have a user, right? And here I'll say user is NS managed object, right? User is an NS managed object. And now we could see more of why is it an NS managed object? Where is that NS managed object coming from? It has to do with core data, and it has to be a subclass of core data, right? So if we go back to our class here, the actual class, user. So here, this is inheriting from NS managed object. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? So when we go back to our diagram from yesterday, and this particular how does core data work, we'll go back and forth here. But now I have NS objects here, NS managed objects here inside the context itself. We haven't seen the context in use yet, but we'll see it once we start saving data to core data. But for now, keep in mind that if I create some sort of object and it's core data, it's an NS managed object. Okay?
So in this case, these are all our entities.
I'm sorry? Yes.
Okay.
And instances of those entities. Cool. So we have this. Where are we here?
Wait, can you go back to?
Yeah, I'm here. Here, right?
Okay, so the private var user. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
All right, because I can't see.
You can see.
It's not when I try to zoom, unless you make your screen a little bigger.
It's the maximum size for now. Maybe make the. Some people call in with their phone on Zoom.
Oh, and then see.
Yeah, maybe that could help.
No.
No, you want to see all of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So next we have a private var.
Alex.
Yes.
Hold on.
Yeah, Luba.
That's not Luba.
No, it's.
Sorry, Chelsea. Go ahead. There's some feedback. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm trying to turn it off. Yes.
Maybe lower down your. Try again.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm getting errors that aren't like in the code. It says multiple commands produce something about files, and I'm not able to run even though all the code appears to be right.
Were you okay after we got off the Zoom call together?
Yeah.
What have you created after that?
Just this file, this Swift file for Core Data Manager.
Okay. Comment out the entire class and then build. Because it's not like you have a duplicate file somewhere, correct?
I don't think
Because
so.
we were able to debug your code.
Yeah, no, I don't.
You don't have an error.
No, I don't have a duplicate.
Okay, but did it build?
No, it still has the same 4 errors.
Do me a favor, go to product.
Okay.
Go to product and do clean build folder.
That didn't do it.
Delete. I know you have some notes somewhere. Delete the 2 properties and redo them. Not the not the classes, but just the properties. Delete those and redo them. So we have private var post. It's of type post. And post is still also an NS managed object. Awesome. So next we need access. Now we need access to the context in the app delegate. Let's see what we're talking about here. If we go to the app delegate, let's navigate back to the app delegate. In the app delegate now, if we go to the persistence store here, everybody sees the persistent container in the app delegate.
Yeah.
I need to access this persistent container now in the app delegate. So in our core data manager, we'll write a simple private variable or private constant to access this container. So we always have access, because we always want to write to the same NS manage object context, right? What am I talking about? If I go back to here, I'm talking about this NS manage object context. I need a reference to this NS manage object context in order for me to save or modify anything in core data. I need to get access to the context that's managing my objects themselves. I need to get access to the parent container. Everybody with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I need to get access to this. The reference is in the app delegate. I need to get access to the app delegate. Once I get access to the app delegate, I'll have access to that context. Then I could say things like context, save everything, context, delete this object, right? Because I need to get a reference to the object, okay? It's like getting a reference to our data persistence reference in our Unit 4 projects, for example, right? To do anything, I need to get access to that same reference there. Okay, so we need to get access to that container. So we need to go back to our core data manager. And here we'll just say access the persistent, access to the persistent container in the app delegate. Chelsea?
Yeah.
Nothing? Close Xcode, reopen.
Okay.
Because there was nothing between when I left, we left together and you built the project, right?
Right.
And it built correctly, it built successfully at that point?
Mhm.
Okay, so close Xcode, reopen it, rerun it again, delete the core data manager file, and also redo that. We need access to the data persistence container from the app delegate. We need access to the data persistence containers reference from the app delegate. Okay, how do we do that? We'll say private let context equal to, let's get access to the app delegate. We have a singleton called UI application. UI application. Oh, why am I not getting UI application?
You need to import UIKit.
I need to import UIKit. Very good. So here I have foundation. I need to import UIKit in order to do anything with UIKit. And while we're here, let's import core data as well. All right. We need to get core data as well here. Thank you. So now I could do UI application. UI application dot shared delegate. The delegate itself, the type of it is a UI application delegate. It's not our app delegate. We need to cast it to our app delegate. So here,
what else did you import?
I imported core data as well. So far we have import UIKit, import core data. We have our class data manager. We have a singleton. We have 2 data arrays here. And we're going to get access to the context itself in order to do any saving. I cannot save anything if I don't have access to the context. I could manipulate my data how I want. Unless I say save, it won't save. So here, delegate, we'll cast it to app delegate. And now we could say persistent container dot context. And here, this is of type view context is of type NS managed object context. I know those are the terms that like throws us off, right? Like you talk about this NS managed object, now you have this NS managed object context, right? But at the end of the day, always just go back and picture what this looks like, right? The inside the context has managed objects, okay? Right? Our instances of users, they're managed objects. Our instances of post, they're managed object. I want to save something, I need to get access to the managed context in order to save anything. We'll see what that looks like as we go, but I'll keep talking about it and keep asking questions about it as we go. So now we have access to the context itself. We could save as we need to. Okay, so we'll have some utility functions like we had. Ideally, you want to be able to do create, read, update, delete, right? Everybody remember CRUD?
Yeah.
All right. So anything you're doing with data, I mean, ideally, you want to be able to create it. Can I create a post? You want to be able to read from it. Can I read the thing I created? Can I see the thing I created? You want to be able to update. Can I update a post? You want to be able to delete. Can I delete a post, right? For the context of today, the create, the read will do. The delete we'll get to if we get to it today, but if we don't, I will put on the doc, I'll put on the project, the README, I'll put how to delete. Everybody with me? It's like 2 lines and just say context. Basically, it's like context delete, context save. So, but ideally we want to get to create and read. That's the objective for today. So again, CRUD, create, read, update, delete. All right, cool. So the reading part is like fetch back the data. So now let's go ahead and say create user. So we have a function called create user. What does create user take? It takes in a name. This is from our text fields, right? It takes in the name of the user. It takes in the date of birth. That's from the Pika view. And that's a date object. Let me get some more space here. Chelsea, how's your Xcode going?
I'm just trying to keep up with the notes right now, but it still has the same error.
Okay, in the next break coming up, we will address what's going on. What time did we start again? We started at 12:50, 11:50?
Yeah.
Okay, so we started at 12, right? Okay. No, 11:50, so right. Thank you, Antonio, sir. Antonio, you think you could take a look at Chelsea's computer for a second?
Yeah.
Chelsea, jump on a Zoom quick with Antonio.
Okay.
If that means redoing the data model, that's fine, or redoing those entities, whatever it takes. Because it was working when we left earlier. I don't know between that and yeah, cool. So create user, what does that look like? So we want to create a user. To create a user, we need to get an entity object from our core data. How do we get that? We'll say user. We'll use the initializer user here. The user initializer we're looking for is not the context one. We're looking for the one that says user initializer, give me an entity and tell me what context I'm putting that entity in. So user entity insert into, that's the option we need. The entity we need is user dot entity. This user entity, this is the table where we want to insert that new entity, right? That's the table we're referring to. Insert into here, this is the context. What context do I want to insert this in? Again, looking at here, what context do I want to insert this new object in? Right now, we only have one context, so there's no problem there. And that same context here is the context in the app delegate.
Maybe I'm jumping, but when would there be multiple?
You could have multiple entities, but I haven't built an app with more than one entity.
I mean, like, okay.
But you could have more, but you'd have to at that point know what entity, what context you're looking for.
So yeah, which is what we have above from the app delegate.
Yep. Right now we have only one, but if you had many, you'd have to like entity, like context, store context or retail context if you want to split up your models. Like if you catch yourself having more models than one, you probably have more context there. Have one context manage each one.
Okay.
Does that help you?
Kind of. Like, I just have to read more about it.
Don't we have 2 entities?
We have 2 entities, but we're talking about the context right now. So Amini's question was, when are we going to have more context, right? Most times you build in an application, you have one context to deal with. You put your objects in there, right? And if you save in, you save into that same context, right?
All
If
entities saving to the same context.
Yes, exactly. In that particular model here, we have one context, but you could have more context. You just have to make sure the one you write into is the one you're referring about, right? It's like very similar. I could have multiple p-lists in my project, right? But so far we've used only one p-list. Does that make sense?
So create user would be, create post would be post entities.
Yep,
post
exactly,
entity,
exactly.
Same context.
Exactly. Amini, does that help you? It's very similar to p-lists, right? If I have multiple p-lists, I just have to access the correct p-list if I want to save to that p-list.
Okay, that's
It's
fair.
the same thing. Think of p-list like the context.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
Okay. And again, most of the apps we built had one p-list.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep going. So we'll say user, what does the user have? User has a name. So right now we're building that user object or that user manage object with the properties coming in from our method. User has a name, we say name, and user has a date of birth, we put date of birth. We don't have a Twitter handle, so that's fine. Again, we were just testing this out, but you could have a Twitter handle here. For now, it's optional, it's nil. And when you're done doing all that, now, are we done? Like, will that get into core data? Use the knowledge from our persistence class from File Manager. What else do we have to do? I'm creating a new object in my File Manager project in Unit 4, whatever it is. At what point am I done?
Do we have to actually save to the core data?
Exactly. We have to actually save to core data. So at that point, you have to actually save the context itself. You've written, the context knows there's changes, but now you need to commit those changes. It's like in GitHub, same thing. I add a bunch of files. Unless I say get commit, it's not ready for execution. Okay, so now we need to actually save changes to the context or to the NS managed object. Save changes to the NS managed object. Here I'll say similar to saving to File Manager.
What about for those of us that don't remember File Manager like that?
We have to remember everything from Unit 1 and forward, right? Yes?
Then what's the point of notes if we have to remember it?
What's the point of notes if I have to remember
it? Are we supposed to go back and refresh our memory?
Ideally, you should be able to find points that you need to revisit as we.
Am I bugging out? File Manager was not user defaults?
So there's user defaults.
And then there's File Manager?
Persistence we saw so far. We saw user defaults first.
Oh, data persistence was File Manager.
Well, the word persistence itself is saving.
Oh God. Okay, let me write these notes again because I.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
And leave him alone. Don't call his name so much.
Who, File Manager?
No.
You said leave him alone. Leave who alone?
You said Jesus or something?
Did I? No, I don't think so.
Okay, persistence itself is saving data, right?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, of course.
Yep. And then there's many ways to save data. You could save data online. Firebase saves data. That's persistence. User defaults we use. We also use documents directory.
Okay.
Now we're seeing core data. I could put Firebase here.
You see all the stuff that we learned and you talking about me remembering?
You got a younger brain than me.
Barely.
You should be, correcting me all the time. Okay, so persistence, we've used.
I really don't understand. Y'all won't understand.
The what?
Nothing.
User defaults, documents directory, Firebase, core data. Where else can we save stuff? In the cloud. I'll put iCloud here. We haven't done iCloud, but
User defaults document directory.
all that is persistence. If I save something in iCloud, I expect it back, or else I'll be not a happy user. Cool. So similar to saving to file manager or saving to documents directory. So now we need to save those changes. This is what we after here. But if we have to go back and look at our persistence class, it's going to be very similar to what we're writing right now, minus the core data parts of them. Anybody remember or know what I'm saying here as far as like unit 4 stuff? We wrote the persistence, the data persistence class.
Yeah, but that wasn't file. That was file manager.
Yeah, file manager. But we wrote the data persistence class, right? Wasn't it called data persistence?
Yeah.
Yep. Let me go GitHub.
I used to be able to write that without help. Now I don't remember.
That's the thing. We got to know everything. Bring everything to the table. Data persistence. If I go inside data persistence, that's Swift. This is the code I'm talking about here, right? So we have a create, we have a load, we have a update, we have a delete. Very similar.
That update, still haven't finished that photo game.
Yep. All right. That's what I'm talking about. So most of the technologies are the same, especially when you're talking about CRUD here. Same thing. I want to save, I want to fetch. I need to commit those changes. GitHub, same thing. If I say get commit, I commit my changes. If I don't say get commit, I haven't committed my changes. Awesome. So now we need to commit those changes and save them to core data. We have the context. It could throw an error, so we need to wrap it in a do catch. I'll say try context.save. You see here, it's marked throws. That's why we have it in a do catch. So at this point, I saved my changes. And here, if I have an error, I'll just print out what the error is. So error, creating user, or error saving user. I mean, we could make our function throw, but I'm not gonna get there right now. Just put an error here. Because ideally, whoever is calling this wants to get some sort of like, hey, what happened?
You're going to get an error for not catching.
What's that?
You're not going to get an error for not catching.
The catch is to catch the error, whatever the error is. Very similar to JSON decoder.
Okay, no, yeah, I totally missed that.
Yep. So if I do not do this, it doesn't get saved to core data. So here we have a handle on the context, the managed context here. So this is the NS manage object context. And on the NS manage object, I save.
Alex,
Yes.
so when we're using a function with a function that throws within a function, a custom, like a function that we've created or a method, we should like always have that function that we created throw the same error, or?
Yeah, because right now, whoever is calling this, if something happens, I don't know something happened.
It won't, okay.
Yep. Very good. But the only thing I want to return really is I'll return a user here, the user that was created. And here, just return user.
Wait, but why is it returning you? Oh, you made it return a user.
Yeah, because we want to use it later to store in our some array.
Gotcha.
Awesome. So this is create user. Actually, if we could do create user and do fetch users, we'll test that out and take a break. That's going to be good. At this point, we haven't seen our app in a while.
Alex, can you go a little bit lower, please?
Lower.
Lower.
Is that low enough? Krista is like, what? I'm having fun.
There we go.
Lower.
Return user, I'm getting it non-void.
Just return here, because it's void. If you're not saying arrow return user, you're in a void function.
Again, with the faces are in the way. I missed that. All right, yeah.
No, no worries.
Oh,
Okay, so we could create a user. Let's go ahead and fetch a user. Can we scroll down?
super, 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 super.
Yeah.
Tiffany, can you rewind the clock? I want 11:30 again.
You gotta ask the man.
The man.
You gotta write to the man and tell the man stop speeding up time. We on to you.
Okay, I heard you. Now we're gonna do fetch users. I could add users. Can I fetch users? Right. So we'll write a fetch users function.
Ooh, I'm about to say, Alex, I said,
I what?
Hmm?
What? Are you okay?
no, I'm not okay.
Let me find out what you're drinking while lecture.
I wish. I'm on a detox. I can't. The only thing I'm drinking is shots of ginger and whatever mixture my mama made.
Oh, ginger is really good. I need ginger right now. I ordered some ginger.
My aunt made this mixture. It has ginger, garlic, cayenne pepper, mango, pineapple. It's a whole bunch of stuff mixed together.
Oh man.
Is
that FDA approved?
I don't know, but I don't think we're gonna approve it because once the FDA approve it, they want their coin, they want their piece. This the way it is.
That's right.
Homemade remedy.
Awesome. Now we want to fetch users. What does this return? It returns an array of users. This is what our function looks like. Our context also throws an error here, so we need to also do a do catch here. And what do we want? Well, we have an array of users. Everybody, please make sure you have a users array and a post array, right up here. All right, so we have our users array. We want to get access to those users from core data. How do we do that? We say try. How do we access anything that's NS object related? We first need to get to the
context.
The context. Very good. So we need to get the context. Anything we do as far as like core data related with our objects, we need that context there. So we'll say context. Hey, context, go ahead and fetch me my users. So context.fetch, right? Context.fetch, what am I trying to fetch? I'm trying to fetch user.fetch request. And if we option click here, we get back an array of users. So what does the syntax look like? NS manage object context, go ahead and make a fetch for me. Fetch the user's entity, and the user's entity, just go ahead and fetch all the objects. Fetch request gets all the objects from gets all the objects from core data. So fetch request. Gets all the objects from core data. Okay. I'll just put extra notes here. We can use NS predicate to sort and filter core data objects. Range fetching. Okay. So right now we'll be retrieving all the objects. But if I want to make an extra, hey, go ahead and filter only post from some date or only post from individual topic or whatever it is. I make what's known as an NS predicate here. Okay. We'll come back and see what that looks like, but not today. Today is just general, fetch everything, show it in a table view. Okay, everybody with me?
Yes.
All right, cool. So here we have all our users. And again, if we get an error, we'll just print out what the error is. Fetching users error. And here I just put error. And we have to return something. Return users. Okay, so at this point, we'll take a pause with the core data manager and we'll go work on our app because we haven't seen our app for a while. So we'll go to our app, we'll go to our users tab, and we will add users there. And the way we'll see if those users are populated, we'll go back to our post picker, or where we create the post, and then we should have the users populated in the picker view. Okay. So I think we are good. If we get there, that means we sync our data from beginning to results, which is good. All right. And who knows, maybe we could do that. Maybe we could just do a breakout session so we could finish the rest together or separately. What? Wait a minute. What's that? Is it something really good? Like like macaroni is so good? You got this. You got this. Okay, let us now continue on.
Alex.
Oh,
hello?
Oh, that's a shout. That's a shout out.
Yes. Is that still not loud? Oh my god. Okay.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
Okay.
Right now, I need.
Can you scroll back up a little bit to the first do catch that we made?
To the creation.
Yeah. Hold on one second.
This guy.
Yeah, I think. Okay, it was just a bracket. Thank you.
Just a bracket. Did you do your fetch user?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Everybody okay with data manager? Can we move on to the controllers?
Emilio has a question in the chat.
Emilio has a question in the chat. Where did my chat go? Did it disappear? Chat, come back. What do you mean by fetch request? Getting all the objects from core data. Do you mean the properties of the user? Okay, cool. Fetch request here. What I mean is I'm asking core data to get me all the instances I have of a user in core data. Like every instance that's been created, get me back all those instances so I could populate my array of users. So if I have 2 users that I created, get me back those 2 users. Fetch request is the method on the entity. It says entity, get me all the objects inside of the table. Awesome. Thank you for reminding me about the chat there. Thank you. So that helped Mr. Benvenido there. Awesome. Can we continue to the controllers? So fetch request is of type fetch request.
Fetch request. You're looking for fets.
Fets? Is that what I wrote down?
You're looking for a fet, a real party.
Oh, fet is E, right? Tiffany, what would I do without you?
Nothing.
Yes, I would not laugh as much, right? Okay, cool. So let's go to our controllers. First controller we're gonna go to is where we start creating things. So let's go to our app first and see. Application, come back. So I have my 2 tabs. We should really name those tabs. I have my 2 tabs. Second tab is users. First tab is post. So when I go to the second tab, how do I create a user? I click on this plus icon here. So many things in an app. No wonder app developers are so
highly paid.
Expensive. Yeah. Because I'm looking at this here. We have so much more code to write in this class because we have to write the delegate protocol that communicates back to the view controller, right? Because how do I know when I click submit?
So are we using the KVO to do
We won't use KVO for that. That was the question yesterday at the end of the day, the lesson.
Wouldn't that be faster or no?
In that example, we don't want to inform multiple people. It's a one-to-one relationship.
Got you.
So we'll just use delegation, which we love. So let's go ahead and do so. So where am I going? I'm going to go to my create user view controller. This is wired, right? Xcode is just bugging out. This should be wired. Should
be. Mine's are.
That's the last thing we did.
Mine's are, then yours definitely is.
Okay, cool. So let's continue on. Thank you for that. Let's create, what are we creating? I want to communicate back to the controller. So we'll create a protocol here. Protocol, we'll call it create user view controller delegate.
All of that?
All of that.
User delegate?
User, like just user delegate?
No, like create user delegate. Like, does it have to be view controller?
We could do that. Next is going to be some function did create user did create user, we will have our create user view controller is of type create user view controller. And here we need the user that was created, which is of type user. Great. So we have the first part of our custom protocol ready. Custom protocol. What's the second part of this?
Assign a weak var to the
Create
delegate.
our weak delegate. Very good. So here we say weak var delegate
Alex, in the function, you have
in the
create
function.
controller. I
Create
think
user view controller, create user. Thank you, Luba. Gold star, 1, 2, 3. You're awesome. That's what I do in Taekwondo. Cool. So create user. Thank you for that. What am I doing here? What's happening? Create user. Oh, right here. Now we have create user view controller delegate.
Oh, you put it above the outlets?
Where am I? This guy?
Yeah, I thought it goes below the outlet.
We could put it below. Let's put it below. Yeah, let's put it below. I like the outlets at the top. Cool. Awesome. So we have our second part here. Did pick a change. I don't think we're using this. Are we using this? I don't think we're doing any code in here, do we? We have a submit button. I don't think we're writing code here. We'll come back and revisit that. But when the user clicks on the submit button, that's where we want to actually set up the delegate. Everybody with me?
Alex, don't we need the date picker change to sort of like in like a did select row at format kind of way?
Not really, because the part of the application where the user actually clicks the submit button, that's when the actual user will get created. So even if I change, like if I create the minute I create the user, I'm exiting out of this particular view controller.
But where's the date picker information being stored?
We have it. Oh, we don't have it. I thought we had an outlet. Oops. Okay. We need one. Because if they never change the date picker now, we won't know what it is.
Yeah.
If the user never changes the date picker and they were born today. So
Right.
let's get an outlet to the date picker. Does that make sense, everybody?
The date picker.
What's that?
We did have an outlet to the date picker.
Did we?
I do.
I don't have an outlet.
You only made the function and we didn't make a outlet though.
Yeah, we never made the outlet.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tiffany's ahead of us.
We need the outlet as well.
Tiffany had one. I don't have one. I don't have one either. And we're going to create one.
So you don't need the action, just
I don't think we need the action for this particular case here.
Okay, but we shouldn't just delete it like that because
Yeah, we'll disconnect it in storyboard. Okay, so when the submit button gets pressed, we'll have the date picker. Other things we want to do with the date picker, set maximum date of today. Because I was born yesterday, right? Oh, sorry, I was born tomorrow. I was born tomorrow. We don't want that to happen. So we'll say date picker that maximum date is today.
Alex, whenever you have chance, can you go scroll up for a second?
Right here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, thank you.
Welcome. So we need to open up storyboard to connect this. Make sure we have our maximum date, which is today. Date picker. Sorry?
No, I was repeating what you said.
Okay. When the user clicks on the submit button, let's write some code for that. So we have only one field, right? Username. Okay, so we want to make sure this is not empty. So let's go ahead and guard. Guard. Let's call it username text equal to username text. make sure it's not empty by saying username text is empty, is not empty. That's enough validation. We could put a print statement here saying missing username, return. Awesome. So at this point, we have a user text and we have the date. So it did never change the date. The picker date is the date of today. So we'll just grab that. So date equal to date picker dot date. So we have date and we have user text. So we have the two pieces of information we need to create a user. So how do we create a user? Here, create a user. How do we create a user? We wrote the code already. How do we call that? Create a user.
Core data manager dot shared.
Core data manager dot shared dot create user. Very good. Thank you. Create user. And then for the name, we just pass in the username. And for the date, we just pass in date.
So date manager.
Oh, that returned something. Sorry. Let user. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So because we put the maximum date, that just gave it a date.
The picker view. When our picker view comes on screen. Well, sorry. If you try to scroll past today, it will scroll back to today. So it won't allow the user to create a date in the future.
Right, but where we said let date equal date picker dot date, that's going to be.
We're just extracting the date from the date picker here. Whatever date they selected, extract.
If they don't select a date, it would be
the date of today.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Extract date from picker.
So whatever it is, it's not necessarily giving it a value, but whatever the value is.
Exactly, exactly. And here we have user. That's why we return the user, because now our delegate needs that user. Set delegate method. Call delegate method. And the delegate method we have, the only one we have, is did create user, right? We pass self and we pass user. So at that point, the view controller itself will have access to this user. So what's the view controller for that one? User view controller will now have access to the created user and get a delegation notification about the new user, something like that. Cool. So create user, and lastly, we'll just dismiss. So dismiss, true, just dismiss. The minute the person clicks on the submit, we just dismiss.
And this basically just says when there's a new user added to the array, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which one? This one?
The delegate.
The delegate. Yeah. So the array. Yeah, exactly. For the table view.
Okay.
And then we should have a did set on it. If not, we'll have a did set. So it just reloads the table view.
Okay.
The good thing is we see it the first time. The second time we'll be doing very similar for post. Whatever we're doing now will be very similar for the post.
Alex?
Yes.
My delegate for some reason gives me a red error. It says week must not be applied to.
Oh, make sure you say any object here. After your create delegate, make sure you have any object.
Okay. Got
because it cannot work on a struct.
All right. Yeah, it disappeared.
Awesome. How are we doing with submit button pressed? Are we good? Actually, let's stay here and connect because we have a connection to do. Open up the assistant editor. Where's my storyboard? Storyboard, open storyboard, access, assistant editor, and create user. That's what we need. So let me get some more space here so we could see what's going on. Okay. So connections. We need to connect our date picker. Everybody has their date picker outlet.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's connect that to the date picker. And let's disconnect the action here. So disconnect the action for the, oh my, here, I've already changed. Disconnect the action for the date picker. Because we have access to the outlet, that's all we need really for the date picker in this instance. What else do we have to connect again?
15 seconds that were significant because my internet crapped out, so we all froze.
What's that? Say that again, Christian.
Did you do anything significant in the last?
Yeah, let me just walk through it. Do you have your protocol? Custom protocol set up?
The create user delegate that we made, or
yeah. You have your WIC var stuff set up?
Yes.
You have your submit button. That's what we worked on.
Okay, submit button. The let user guard let username text, let date, let user delegate to create and dismiss.
And then you have your dismiss. You have your did create user. Okay, you are good. Yeah, that's why I tried to I got an Ethernet cable to the router, man, because I was getting too many drops.
No, yeah, I've been getting a lot more drops today than normal.
Than regular, yeah. The Ethernet definitely looks to be okay. Fingers crossed. I should not jinx it too much. But so far, so good.
I have an Ethernet cable around, but now I need to get an adapter for the Mac because it doesn't.
Yeah, I had to get one. I got one, and then I haven't done drivers in a while. I had to go install drivers for the Mac, Catalina. It's just like, yeah, but it worked at the end. But Windows, I don't miss Windows because Windows drivers for everything. Drivers. All right, so now we connected everything. Let us close that out and go back to our users view controller. Go back to users view controller. And there's nothing in there. What happened to all the code, Tiffany?
We didn't have any.
We didn't have any? Okay. At least our table view is connected.
Yes.
And
Remember,
at least we
we're gonna connect everything first.
And at least we have an extension on the table view, right? No. We have one now, right?
Wait, you just took the one from post?
How are we doing with the snippets? We gotta have snippets, right?
Oh, that was a snippet?
That was a snippet. It was called Create Table View Extension. And it gets you that.
You cheating.
Or you could just type everything over. Create, we need an extension on users, view controller, and UI view, UI table view, data source, and make an extension after this so that table view stuff, we could just use snippets for it. And UI table view delegate. Do we need a delegate? That's fine, it's okay. Number of rows in section. We don't even have an array of anything yet. So return 0 here, cell for row.
Alex, you snippeted this out?
Am I inside of the function? Where am I? Am I still in a snippet?
Did you send this in a snippet? Oh, no, we're building this right now.
Where am I? Class here, extension here, table view here.
You don't have both of them, that's why, yeah.
Yeah, I was just making sure that cell for row.
Why don't you just let it give it to you when you press?
Let it give it to you. Okay, mademoiselle. Let cell equal to table view dot the Q reusable cell with identifier. The Q reusable cell. What's our cell? What do we call our cell?
What is this? Oh, I guess user cell. I don't think we gave it a name.
Okay.
We did.
We did? What was it?
Got confirmation.
It was.
At timeline 56 minutes, 10 seconds.
I mean, I don't know, actually. No.
We'll see. We'll see soon enough. It's going to crash or... So user cell is cell. Let's actually We don't
Oh,
have
I
an
can
array.
give it a name.
So we need some sort of array of users. We don't have that yet, but it's going to be some array of users where we get a user, and we're going to have cell.text label.text equal to user.name, something like that. So we'll create a users array, which we don't have yet, and we'll say users.count. We'll say users.count. Oh, there's actually lunchtime today. Interesting. Return users.count. That is good. Okay. Right now we don't have a users array yet, so when people are finished typing, we'll go create a users array.
Alex, did you configure the table view?
In what sense? Like you mean?
Like set up like the delegate and data source?
No. We'll do that as we go up. I don't want to scroll up now. We'll scroll up and we'll do that. Cool?
Yeah, I was just making sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we need a did select. So here we'll just like navigate, segue to, later we're gonna segue to post. VC, show only users, post. Okay, how are we doing? Can we scroll up? Can we scroll up? Thumbs down, thumbs up.
Account, cell, users, okay.
That doesn't exist yet.
I know, I just made it, yeah. And
Scroll
we
up.
just get it an empty array, right?
I just did users.count because we're gonna fix users right now.
Do we put a did set and reload the table view?
We're going up there right now to do all that. I just want to make sure everybody's here before we move up. Okay, now let's do all that beautiness. Table view, our array, our data stuff. Let me format my code a little bit here so that looks better. Okay, cool. So our data is what? We have users, right? Yes?
Yeah.
And here we could have a did set, and we could say table view that reload. And here we could configure our table view. Let's just get in the habit of just writing a function here. Configure table view. What does that look like? Table view dot data source equal to self, and table view dot delegate equal to self, and simply just call that configure here like this. Okay.
What she said.
And what else we have to do? There's more stuff we have to do. We have to get a reference.
To the delegate?
A reference to the what?
Delegate?
Yeah, we need to get a reference to the thing we're going to, right? Which is the create user view controller. How do we get a reference to it?
Wait, is this for the oh, but we don't need to prepare for segue, do we? Don't need to prepare for segue because it's connected with the button, no?
Yeah, but you said it. We need that prepare for segue now though, because we need a reference to this create view controller.
And that's what's gonna give us
access to set the delegate.
Oh.
Very, very good. Very good. So here we'll say prepare for segue. And if we, how many segues we have? We'll have to give it an identifier because we might have multiple segues. So is segue dot just identifier. We'll call this one create user segue. Copy that. Whatever string you have there, copy it because we'll edit it in Storyboard. So if it's that segue, then we need to get a reference like I have there. We need to get a reference to the create in order to set the delegate, right? If we don't set the delegate, we're not gonna get updates when an object was created. So here I need to say guard let create.
We're creating the instance, right? So the
Exactly. We need to get an instance in order to set that delegate object. So create user VC equal to segue.destination as create user view controller. Everything comes together, right? In projects, everything we've learned. So never forget anything you've learned, right? Or just know the places to find it if you need to. Now we'll say fatal error here, and we'll say could not segue to create user view controller. So now we have access to this create, the same instance. Now we have access to that same instance that's getting pushed. We could set the delegate on it right here. So create that delegate equal to self. Awesome. I'll give us some time there. Feel free to ask questions, but we now need to write an extension to conform to the create user delegate.
And we did this so that we can use that delegate on this view controller?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Because if I go ahead and do something like this, like if I say, oh, I really want an instance to this thing, and I say let create VC equal to some instance, right?
It's a new instance, yeah.
That's going to be different instances.
Yeah.
All right.
So why is it still red? What do we have to?
Question, you answer. You give me the answer. Why is it still red?
As create user, do we have to set up on our thing a delegate? We have to set up the delegate, right?
Yeah, we got to conform to it. Because now we're going into an agreement. We said, hey, we're going to conform to you, but we haven't done it yet.
And it's become the create user delegate. Oh, wait, no, we have to do user. Okay, got you.
Can, are we okay here? Can I scroll down?
Yeah.
All right.
And then it's going to give us the protocol. And then.
So here we'll say users, view controller, we conform to create user delegate. And here we have one function did create. And here we have access to the users. We could simply just say users.append user. And that will reload. Table view user.
Oh, because once the user is changed with the did set is why it reloads. Gotcha.
Exactly. This here, if you have problems with arrays with KVO, you need to manipulate the array in order to get observed for KVO. So if I'm adding, I'm removing, I'm inserting, right? Those are gonna trigger KVO. Very similar to my did set. My did set will get called when that array changes. Cool. Awesome. All right, so we have that. I think we have all the pieces in place, minus a crash, because we don't have the segue yet. Go to Assistant Editor. We need to have the segue connected.
It's not connected? Isn't that what the button is?
No, the identifier. We need to give it an identifier. Let's scroll to this guy. This identifier here. Let me pull the scene down a little bit more. Let's make sure we all have access to create user scene. Do we all see the create user scene? Yeah. This is a segue, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Click on the segue. Open up Attribute Inspector. Do we see identifier?
Yes.
So we need to give it that same identifier we had, which we copied. We pasted in there. In the prepare for segue, the same identifier you have in the string literal is that same identifier that goes there. Because later, actually, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, because later we're gonna have multiple ways to segue here. We'll be able to click on a cell and segue. And if we don't identify it, our app will crash. Everybody with me? Any questions about that? If your view controller has multiple segue points, you need to start giving them identifiers, right? That way, when you get in your prepare for segue, your app won't crash with the wrong identifier. Cool? All right, awesome. So I think we are good to test.
Hey, Alex, sorry.
Yes, sir.
My internet like crashed badly just now, and I missed the last 30 seconds.
Did you? We are the segue part, so make sure your assistant editor is open.
Oh yeah, I need a second for that.
Open up your assistant editor. Have you tried the Ethernet cable? I definitely recommend it because
I mean, I would still need to get an adapter, so I have to.
Yeah, I got one on Amazon that shipped like in a week or so. It took a little while, but from Pluggable. I'd recommend that one. It's like $12 or something like that.
Create user segue.
Yeah. So click on that and go to identifier and make sure it's create user segue. Make sure it's the same string like the one you have in prepare for segue.
In the storyboard you click the storyboard.
Where am I?
Click segue.
Actually, we don't have it.
You're identifying the arrow, the segue.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, I have to change something because I actually put that in the view control in the storyboard ID. All right,
where is it? Prepare. Right here. Make sure it's the same one like the one you put in to prepare for segue.
Yeah, I had copied it. Yeah.
Okay. You have all the code for prepare for segue, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You set your delegate?
Correct, yeah.
And you conform to it?
Yes, done. Yep.
Okay, cool. And you did append?
Yeah.
And in your table view, you reloaded?
No, I did not.
Alex, for some reason I have also a red arrow for cell text label dot text user dot name. It has value optional.
Let's see.
It's
that is back in here, right? Self-RL?
Yeah.
This guy? So if I get a user has a name.
Oh, text label. I got it. It has to be optional.
Yeah, the text label itself is optional.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got it.
Awesome. All right, let's give it a test and see how we're doing with all the moving parts we have so far. So the objective is try to create a user. So let's go to the second tab, click on my add button, add a user in here, give the user a birth date, tick, 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 tack. Well, I gotta change that first. Change this guy. Throw the month off. That's about that. And submit.
Are we testing it?
Look at that. That worked. But let's see if core data works. How can we test if core data works?
If you close it out and bring it back in?
If I close it out and bring it back in. Sounds like a Planet Fitness. It sounds like a Planet Fitness commercial.
I have an error.
1 second, sir. So let's stop it and run it again. And go to users. It's not there. Why is it not there?
Persistence.
You didn't save it?
Well, we think we saved it, but what else are we missing to do?
Fetch users.
Fetch users. Yeah. Thank you, madam. We haven't fetched users. So let's go to, let me close that out. Christian, what's your error while I'm here navigating?
I fixed it.
All right. 1 second. 1 second delay always gets it, right? User view.
Where would we put that? We would put that in the load, in the view did load?
Yes. Same as API, same as anything else, we have a table view. We want to load the thing. We want to fetch it, right? So very good. So Cassandra says we need to fetch. So let's write a function here.
Alex?
1 second. I'm in the user's view controller. Ahad, what's your question?
When are we gonna take a break?
We're like 1 minute away from that.
Oh.
And then we have lunch.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Private function fetch users. What does fetch users look like? Well, we have an array of users. We'll just say users. Users what? What happens here on my right side?
Users equals to core data manager.
Core data manager dot share
Dot fetch users.
Fetch users. Excellent. Well, not that one. Fetch. Why do I have fetch user? Nobody stop me. This would be fetch users.
I thought you did have fetch users.
I already have it, fetch users.
Show off.
The you thing then.
Show off. So wait. Why is there fetch user and fetch users? What's happening? Oh, I'm bugging out. Sorry. Okay, so I need to change this fetch user to fetch users. That's fine. So now if we run the app again, let's validate that core data works. Let's run the app again. Run the application. Go to users and voila, we have a user.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Right?
And then Ahad needs to eat.
We're doing users that append the user in the delegate.
Down there?
Yeah. So how come it's that? Am I bugging out? Or is there a step where I don't know why it's not clicking. If we're doing users that append user in the delegate to this users.
What does that do? Tell us what does that do? You're in a code review with an employer. What does that do? Users that append user.
It appends the user that we created. Oh, and our create. Okay. Okay.
No, talk about it. Not okay.
No, because in here, all right. So in here, it's inside of our. Okay, we did core data.share.create user using this user. Okay, so we use the core data to create.
But wait, you're not walking us through it. So users that append, what does that do?
It's appending the user that we created with our core data manager now.
It appends the user to the table, to the array of users.
Yeah.
And our did set gets called.
And reloads.
And that reloads the table view.
Right, but I just realized that in our submit button, the user that we created here that we're appending was created with the core data manager.share.
Right. So that adds to core data. It has nothing to do with our table view.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Very good. Everybody was able to get their user. Actually, let's do one more for us to make sure this all works. So here, I have Miles. I stop the app. I run it again. Miles should persist.
Born today.
Perfect. So I have Miles as well. On today. Yes, he was born today. More kids to take care of. So that works, right? Everybody, it works for us because Ahad needs to eat.
Alex, when's your birthday?
April 6th.
No, it's not. It's November 20.
December.
It's November 25th, no?
25th. That makes me 3 days late.
Isn't it great?
All right, we good? Any questions? Any questions before we break? Because Mr. Hart is...
Alex, my sound was out. Before we wrote this, fetch users, did we do something else before that?
Before we wrote fetch users. Ahad, you could definitely head out for break. We'll come back.
I'm already eating.
You're already eating? This guy. So Yulia, we did fetch users, right? Fetch users basically grabs core data information.
Yeah, before fetch users and simulator, did you do something?
Before fetch users, make sure in your did create protocol method, you say user.append. You have that?
You know I'm a real idiot.
Yes,
One second, Miss Tiffany.
Yes,
Yulia, do you have this?
Yes.
Okay, so what's happening on your end? Is it just not working or?
No, it's working. I just I was for some sound did not work and just worried that I missed something.
Oh, no. You haven't missed anything. We were just reiterating things. For now, everybody got it to work. I haven't seen anything in the chat. So it looks like everybody is up and running with core data. Basically, we've done everything needed in the lesson. But when we come back after lunch, we'll just be doing for the post side of it.
Okay.
All right. But we're in a good space right now.
Alex?
Yes.
When are we coming back?
We're coming back an hour from now.
Got it.
And then we should be close to finishing this. And then we'll be able to do the lab over the weekend and stuff like that.
So what we're doing after lunch is setting a post in a similar way.
Yes. When we come back after lunch, we want to, so we have users, right?
Yeah.
I want to, when I create a post, I want to have my users here.
Okay.
Select a user, create a post with that user. When I click submit, it shows that post on that user.
Okay.
Right? And that's actually it. We're done. Well, there's probably one more step where I want to click on something, segue to the post as well. But again, the core part of the core data part of it, the basic part of the core data part of it, we've